Hi friends, today let us study Consumer Protection Bill 2018. Actually, it was Consumer Protection Bill 2015 and has been passed recently on December 20, 2018. Okay, Consumer Protection Bill to protect consumer rights. It is to safeguard the consumers to complain against the defaults in getting the services or goods from the manufacturers or the sellers. So, what is the essential of introducing this new bill? So, we have already one bill, that is one act, Consumer Protection Act 1986. But there are some problems in the Act of 1986. So, we are introducing this Consumer Protection Bill 2015. So, there are merits also there. Consumer Protection Act of 1986 protects consumer rights, redressal of complaints at three levels, that is district level, state level, and national level, to resolve, to get the solutions or disposal. The consumers can get protection and for the defects in goods or deficiency in getting services, and it recognizes offences such as unfair trade policies practices. So these are already there in the 1986 bill, but the bill was old as it was implemented in 1986. There are some problems. The demerits are there. Challenges in implementation. There are some problems in implementing the Act of 1986, and it was taking too many time to dispose the complaints lodged by the consumers. As we know, the time taken by these the present act was too long. Then there are no options for lodging the complaints online, and nowadays we are trading so many times. E-commerce and e-trading facilities are implemented nowadays. We are facing so many problems in solving these trading, e-trading and e-commerce problems were not involved in this 1986 Act. So to introduce all these things, in the year 2011, new amendment for this Act was introduced, but it was not passed due to the dissolve of the 15th Lok Sabha. So then the problem continues. So the new bill was introduced in the year 2015. So the bill introduced various new provisions, which includes product liability, unfair contracts, setting up of regulatory bodies. When the bill was introduced in the year 2015, then it was handed over to the Standing Committee on Consumer Affairs for the detailed study of the bill, and the Standing Committee submitted its report in April 2016. The committee gave several recommendations with regard to product liability and powers and functions of a regulatory body. It recommends to establish a setup of Central Consumer Protection Authority, that is a CCPA. And what are the penalties for misleading advertisements and defaults in providing goods and defect services? What are the penalties? And pecuniary jurisdiction. It means the financial jurisdiction of the bodies established under the acts. And as in the Act 1986, we have commissions for the redressal of the consumer complaints. District level commission, state level commission, and national level commissions are there. They have some limited price value. The value of the amount is till the how much of amount will become under the price value of the complaints come under these three commissions at the three levels: district level, state level, and national level. Again, so Consumer Protection Bill 2018, with the recommendations of the Standing Committee, there are some recommendations were implemented and some of the recommendations were eliminated in this bill, not included in the bill. So it was passed in Lok Sabha recently on December 18, 2018. So the bill, if it becomes an act, it replaces the present Act of 1986. It enforces the consumer rights and provides mechanism for redressal of complaints. So regarding the defects and problems in getting goods and services. So this bill recommends to set up some bodies to solve the problems of the consumers and protect their rights. So it's recommends to set up consumer disputes redressal commissions at 3 levels, and again CCPA, that is Central Consumer Protection Authority, and again Consumer Protection Councils. Again that the bill recommends to set up mediation cells. So if there are some mediation cells, so before going to the commissions, the consumers and the manufacturers, they can solve their problems outside the commissions, outside these judicial bodies, with both of them are concerned with their agree to resolve the problem outside these judiciary bodies, to resolve the problems beyond the commissions. So these mediation cells can be help the consumers and the manufacturers, and to maintain a consolidation between the bodies, these mediation cells were established. Again, let's study in detail what are the functions and compositions and the powers of these 3 bodies. That is, the first one is Consumer Disputes Redressal Commissions. The disputes arises between the consumer and the manufacturer or the seller or the seller. Okay. So these commissions were set up at 3 levels, that is district level, state level, and national level. So district level can solve the problems up to the price value of 1 crore. So before it was very low, and it was extended up to 1 crore. The price value of 1,000 up to 1 crore, the price value up to 1 crore comes under district level commissions. These commissions can resolve the problems up to the price level of 1 crore. And after that, from 1 crore rupees to 10 crore rupees, and these complaints can be lodged at the state level commissions, and national level commissions can take the complaints with the price value more than 10 crores. Then to solve this, there are time limits to dispose the complaints. Before it was taken too many time, but now it was limited by the bill. The complaints should be disposed within the 3 months to 5 months. If too much investigations are needed, too much inquiries and investigations are needed to solve the problems, then it may extend up to 5 months. Without deep investigations, they can they must dispose the complaints within 3 months. Okay, 3 to 5 months. Then if the complaint lodged at the district level and it was resolved or disposed in the district level commissions, either of the manufacturer or the consumer can go for the appealation to the state level commissions, and the cases solved or disposed at the state levels can go to the appealation for national level. And again, against the decision of these national commissions, they can go for appealation in the Supreme Court. So these are the appealation courts. Supreme Court is the appealation for the national commissions. National Commission is the appealation court for the cases resolved at the state level, and the state level commission is the body to take the appeals from the district courts. Then these commissions were, what are the compositions of these commissions? Let's see, national level and state level commissions consisted of a president and at least 4 members. But the bill not specifically mentioned what are the qualifications of the tenure and appointing procedure of these president and members. The government, central government, has the full authority to do all these things. Then district level commission is headed by a president and 2 members. The qualifications, tenure, and methods of the appointment of and removal of the president and members of these commissions will be prescribed by the government through notifications. And then consumer disputes redressal commissions. It's a quasi-judicial body. There are some issues in this commissions. The bill empowers the central government to appoint the members of these commissions. The central government has full power to do all these things. Then the bill does not specify the commissions will comprise a judicial member, either judicial member or not. As it is a judicially quasi-judicial body, it must compose with the judicial members, but it does not mention specifically how many of the members were taken from judicially wing and how many of the members should be taken from executive bodies. So those things are not specified in the bill. The bill does not specify that the commissions will comprise as judicial. If the commission were to have members only from the executive, then the problem arises, the separation of powers, judicial and executive powers. So it may affect the principle of separation of powers. Then the bill empowers the central government to appoint and remove prescribed conditions of services for members of the district, state, and national consumer disputes redressal commissions. The bill leaves the composition of these commissions to the central government. Again, this could affect the independence of these quasi-judicial bodies. So these are the things about consumer disputes redressal commissions. Let's see the one more body, that is CCPA. So the bill recommends to set up Central Consumer Protection Authority. So this authority is to promote, protect, and enforce consumer rights as a class. So it can issue safety notices for goods and services, and it can order for the refund to protect the consumer rights. This authority can order the concerned manufacturers or the sellers to refund the orders or recall goods, and they can make rules against misleading advertisements. So then CCPA, it consists of headed by a chief commissioner and comprise other commissioners. Again, it may have investigation arm. It was headed by Director General. Then the functions of Consumer Protection Authority is that the functions, it may issue safety notices both to the manufacturers, sellers, and to the consumers, or pass orders to recall goods, prevent unfair and restrictive trade policies. Again, it may reimburse purchase price paid by the consumers, and to impose penalties for false and misleading advertisements. It may also file complaints. It may also complaints before the consumer dispute redressal commissions. It can lodge complaint also in favor of the consumers. So this is about Consumer Protection Authority. Again, one more body is there, that is Consumer Protection Councils. So these councils can be set up at 3 levels, again, national level, state level, and district level. And these protection councils are advisory bodies. The council will advise on promotion and protection of consumer rights. Then these councils were headed by ministers in charge of consumer affairs. National and state level bodies were presided by the minister in charge of consumer affairs. He was the head of these 2 commissions. And the district level commission will be headed by the district collector, the district commissioner. Then the bill does not specify whom the councils will advise, whether it is to advise the consumer disputes redressal commissions, or to advise the government, or to advise the CCPA. Not specifically mentions whom to these councils advise. If the council advises the government, it is unclear again in what capacity such advice will be given. So these are the things. And some other key points discussed in this was product liability. So this bill allows the person to make a claim of a product liability. If anything harm happened to him, he can reclaim the amount from the manufacturers, sellers, or service providers for any defect in their services, in their product. And again, a claim of compensation may be made by any harm caused by, including property damage, personal injury, illness or death, mental agony, emotional harm accompanying these conditions. And again, there are some unfair contracts. Unfair contract is that if it causes significant change in the rights of the consumer, it is called unfair contracts. So it requires excessive security deposits, imposing a disproportionate penalty for a breach in contract, refusing to accept early repayment of debts, terminating the contract without reasonable causes, transferring a contract to a third party to the detriment of the consumer without his consent, or imposing unreasonable charge or obligations which put the consumer at a disadvantage. So these can be the state and national commissions may determine if the terms of contract are unfair and declare such terms to be null and void. And again, unfair and restrictive trade practices. Unfair trade practices, which includes making a false statement regarding the quality and standard of a good service, selling of goods not complying with standards, manufacturing of spurious goods, non-issuance of receipt for a good or services sold, refusing to draw or refund goods and services within 30 days, disclosing personal information provided by a consumer to any other person. And again, restrictive trade policies is one that imposes unjustified costs or restrictions on consumers, which includes delays in supply that lead to increase in the price, requiring purchase of certain goods and services as condition for procuring any other goods or services. And the CCPA may take steps to prevent and discontinue unfair and restrictive trade policies. And state, district, and national commissions may order the discontinuation of unfair and restrictive trade policies. And then penalties also mentioned in this bill. If a person does not comply with the orders of the district, state, and national commissions, he may face imprisonment up to 3 years or a fine not less than rupees 25,000. Then up to from 25,000 to extendable up to 1 lakh, or both will be given to as a punishment, as a penalty. If a person does not comply with the order issued by CCPA, again he may face imprisonment up to 6 months or a fine up to 20 lakh, or both. For false and misleading advertisement, nowadays we are getting too much disturbed by misleading advertisements. They are advertising one thing and giving some other things. Especially online trading they are giving too much misleading advertisements, false advertisements. For such things, the penalty can be levied on them up to 10 lakh and may be imposed on a manufacturer or an endorser. This is the thing. Most of the celebrities who are endorsing these products, for the endorsers will also be given punishment or penalty. For such subsequent offences, the fine may extend up to 50 lakh. 10 lakh to 50 lakh. The manufacturer can also be punished with imprisonment of up to 2 years, and which may be extended up to 5 years in case of every subsequent offences. Again, CCPA can also prohibit the endorsers, celebrities or the persons who are sponsoring advertising, endorser of misleading advertisements, from endorsing any particular product or service for a period of 1 year. For every subsequent offence, the period of prohibition may extend up to 3 years, but there are certain exceptions when an endorser will not be held liable for such penalties. Then CCPA may also impose penalties for manufacturing and selling and storing, distributing, importing adult products. These penalties are: if injury is not caused to consumer, the penalty would be fine up to 1 lakh. If injury is caused, the penalty would be fine up to 3 lakh with imprisonment of 1 year. Here the imprisonment is 6 months. If grievous hurt, the penalty would be up to 5 lakh along with imprisonment of 7 years. If the product causes, in case of death, the penalty would be up to 10 lakh more along with minimum imprisonment of 7 years, and it can be extendable up to imprisonment for life. Okay, with this I end my presentation. The sources for my presentation have been taken from prsindia.org. Thank you very much.